Welcome to Discourse, a podcast about music as a medium for conversation. Tivy is standing in for Carla today, and our guest is the one and only Goth Dad. Dusty Gannon is the lead singer for Vision Video of Athens, Georgia. As a veteran and former firefighter and EMS, his music is fueled by a lot of difficult experiences, but in true goth fashion, he's found a way to be a source of positivity. I feel like that is kind of twofold with you. You have your goth dad persona, which I adore. That's how I initially was introduced to you on TikTok. And the second is how you talk about politics to your audience. Like you're very outspoken about your beliefs and your experiences. And I saw you play earlier this year, and it was kind of like you were training like the young kids to like learn how to connect and kind of motivate in this kind of environment. Tell us a little bit about all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think as far as the political discourse aspect of what I do, I didn't really start out with that. It was always kind of innate. It's always been coded into the music, but as we grew as a band, and like this is my first like real attempt into the professional realm of musicianship. I've played in smaller bands, so just like one-off shows and this and that and the other, but like this is everything that I'm doing. I feel like I'm learning something new every day, because I feel like I'm just walking into a dark forest and I have no idea where I'm going, but you must trudge on anyways. So early on, there's kind of this like dogmatic belief of like, play the songs, keep the banter light, and get to the point, and like don't overplay. There's a lot of like these opinions of doing stuff like that in the realm of live performance with music. But in any case, as we grew, and especially once we started doing this full time about 2 years ago, and I started to see this shifting of the political ecosystem and what was going on around us in the world, and I started to become very succinctly aware of the fact that I really needed to voice these things, and I think a lot of people perceive it maybe to be this like pointed political message. And politics is obviously an aspect of it, but I try not to view it in that way. I like to think of these things that I talk about more as human rights or ecological rights. These are things that are complicated, but also there are objective truths to things. And I only really try to weigh in and put that that amount of discourse, whether in the show or online or whatever, when it's something that I have experienced, to expound upon it. I'm never going to say something like sort of conjecturally that I don't believe in, because I feel like a lot of people do that, and then somebody challenges them on it, and it's like, well, I guess I don't really know all that much. So anyway, I think that when I got out of the military, and I was a firefighter, and I was doing music kind of concurrently, it just became, it was like a calling, a call to action within myself to say like, hey, these songs are about these things. You better start talking about this, because otherwise people may not understand it, and B, like, you're not giving it the breadth that it needs. And especially having like large social media platforms, I think that we're in an age where like social media is its own form of, everybody calls it like clout or whatever they want to call it, but like it has its own level of like power. And if you're not using that to create efficacious good in this world, at least on some marginal level, I mean like a bare minimum, then it's like, what really are you doing? I don't think we all need to be crusaders and constantly champion every single thing, because we can't. I mean, we're all humans. We only have so much capacity. But for me, it's like the whole point of it in a way. And I just think that it's like such a crucial aspect Because if you look at music and art in general of any medium or any form, art and especially music has been a purveyor of change throughout, especially our country's history, but all human history, because music and art is storytelling, and storytelling is the way that we learn not only about ourselves, but more importantly about other people's experiences. And I think that's a really important aspect that we forget about, because art and especially music is everywhere now, and it's so commodified. You can hit a button and Spotify, it's great, but it's like we're just consuming it a little mindlessly all the time. But I think it's important to remember, like, this shit matters. Like, we've got to make this stuff count, and we got to pay honor to the people in the past that were brutalized for making songs, or standing up for what they believed in through songs. And that's, And actually, one of the songs we're gonna play out, there's a lot of amazing background about that song, where that artist suffered because of it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a lot of opportunity to dig into a lot of those topics. Our theme today is the state of things. So buckle up. Music starts in 3, 2, 1. This first song is A Change Is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke. It was released on Ain't That Good News on RCA Records in 1964. Dusty, tell us about this.
So this is a song that has always really resonated with me, because it is so literal and honest. And I think that for me, it's always been one of those songs that really pierces to the heart of the emotion that's trying to be conveyed by Sam Cooke. You can really feel the pain and the exhaustion, but also this incredible sense of hope that is profound. And every time I hear this song, I get chills, or even right now. Obviously Sam Cooke was putting out music during the civil rights movement and that entire era. And this song, apparently he wrote this song after being denied being able to play a show at a certain venue because he was an African American. And he was just blown away, because there was, he was a famous recording artist at this point, and there was no reason for him to not be allowed to perform other than this one inherent characteristic. And that was just shocking to him, and he was threatened, with violence, and it's just I just think that it's such a powerful track that speaks to that level of acknowledging that things are not good, but things can get so much better, and that they will get better, and that's a beautiful thing.
That is. I think it's easy to forget how recent that sort of thing still happened, like especially, the way they teach history, which we know isn't the best way.
If they teach it.
If it's even taught, right.
Yep.
And there's a lot of, whitewashing of our immediate history that's happening, or just straight up censorship. It's just absolutely maddening to think that some of the basic things that we learned about as kids, because that was a way more immediate history than it is now. But there's a lot of people at large that are trying to remove that knowledge base from public education, which is just maddening to me.
Yeah, it is. I do like this pick, because, we do need to remember that things are moving. It's hard to see a lot of times, but
yeah.
I need a little piece of positivity now and then.
Yeah.
This next song is Stole by Kelly Rowland. It was released on Simply Deep on Sony Music Entertainment in 2002. Raja, tell us about this song.
Yeah, thinking about the state of things, I wanted to start off thinking about the youth, really, and just with like current events, but you can tell a lot about a society with how they revere or think about their children and the youth in general. And so this song especially talks about three different stories of youth who essentially lost their lives too soon. And it makes me think about like all the children that have lost their lives too soon to things that they should not have to be subject to. Um,
Hmm.
and then thinking about like the basic thing that kids have to do, which is go to school, and how hard that is for them now with school shootings and the lack of gun control we have. And also just like in the age of social media, the kids are facing something I think I personally like grew into. Just as a kid who grew up in the 90s, we were just starting to get the internet and getting access to that. And now it's kind of unfettered. It's on their phones, it's on tablets, their school devices. And when you think about bullying, and also just legislation has not caught up with social media. So thinking about like the potential ban on TikTok, I think there also should be regulation on all of the different kinds of social media we have, because there's studies that show intentionally the users have been subjected to different tests to affect their mood and their
Hmm.
perspective. And so thinking about the impact of just the youth and when they grow up, where does the intervention happen for them to become citizens that are then supposed to vote, take care of each other, then take care of older people? We have to start somewhere. So this song just made me think about the youth and how we protect and help and set them up for success.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah,
This song
I can't
still
really.
hits.
It
It's
still
great.
hits, right?
I can't really imagine being a kid now with all that stuff like social media with the like what you're saying about bullying. Like,
Hmm.
we only had to worry about it really in person, and now it occupies so much of their time and their brain
Yes.
space that I can't imagine. And it's like, how much are they actually spending that time learning or being enriched on any level actually in school? And it's really heartbreaking. But it's so much worse because when people are anonymous online, I mean, I get a lot of horrible comments all the time about my
Yeah.
personage on the internet, and it's like I've got thick skin, but I'm like, man, some of these kids really got to be hurting from this stuff, and
Yeah.
it's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, I feel
And
like.
it just makes me think too, like just I mean, obviously the current state of things, the political climate, reproductive
Mhm.
justice is a political issue now.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
when we think about the lyrics in this song and how they still mirror children's experiences, like what about the children who are here? Like we're forcing people to have babies and bring them into this world where we're not even taking care of the ones that are here.
Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the kids these days have a lot more to deal with than we do. Like, school shootings
Mhm.
happen constantly. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Columbine was a huge deal when we were younger.
Yes.
Just a lot of change to deal with. Well, this next song is Like Girl by Lizzo. It was released on Cause I Love You on Nice Life Recording and Atlantic Recording in 2019. Tivy, tell us about this song.
First of all, she starts with woke up feeling like I just might run for president. Even if there
Yes.
ain't no precedent, switching up the messaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I love
Yeah.
about this song, when I think about the state of things, like there's two parts of me when I think about the state of things. There's this part of me that's like, oh my God, the world is a dumpster fire. Like, why are we trying so hard to save this earth? Mother Earth, just shake us off into the atmosphere and start over. And then there's the other part of me that's like, okay, we can do this. Like there are highlights and there are great things. And what I love about this song is that it takes a lot of the negative messaging about being a girl, like throwing like a girl and all these you feel like a girl, like, and using it as a source of pride. Like that is the state of things that I have to rest in. I have to rest in that positivity and that power in order to like get through the day to day. So this is like an anthem. Yeah, like a girl.
Yeah. It's totally so important too, because I think you already see this rhetoric that's being spun up about Kamala Harris, you know, literally running for president as you know, the first black woman, you know, let alone just a woman. And it's just, it's like wild, the horrifying shit that you've been seeing, I'm sure, just left and right. That's like so baseless. And it's all just rooted in like utter abject misogyny and fear, you know, because I think men are inherently afraid of powerful women because they've never really seen women have mass power. And I think it challenges every notion of patriarchal ideology.
Yeah.
And that's scary for people that have rooted most of their beliefs in those ideologies.
It's so wild because it's like half of our population is women. Like, you do not exist without a woman.
Yeah.
At all.
Oh, yeah.
So, like a girl. And the patriarchy hurts us all, right? It's not just me saying like, oh, the patriarchy, oh, men suck. Like, the patriarchy literally hurts us all. There's, you know, we're all human. We all have the same range of emotions. To like cut one part of people off from that, like, it's inherently destructive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This next song is Rich People by Carsey Blanton. It was released independently as a single in 2022. So this is an artist out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The American songwriter has a quote about her saying she's fighting fascism with big hooks and an even bigger heart, which I think is a great kind of summary of kind of what her music feels like. So it's very, you know, kind of folky, and she talks a lot about very liberal things. This song is all about like the history of the economic system in the US, talks about like starting with Reagan and how like rich people are basically just running everything and they're to blame for a lot of our problems. And her marketing is fantastic too. So everything that she sends out has this very cohesive voice to it. And it just feels very conversational and very, you know, just my neighbor down the street, which I love. I love seeing people do that kind of thing, right? And she feels very homey to me. And I love how she's so sweet and is just like talking about burning down the patriarchy. Also,
right.
She has a possum tattoo, which makes me love her immediately.
Nice.
Speaking of the state of things, Heather, they're giving away like I voted stickers in Durham that have possums on them.
What?
That's awesome.
Aww.
Yeah.
My partner runs a cat rescue, but she also she helps with another rescue that is possum rescue. And they're actually fascinating, wonderful little creatures. I've got to like go hang out with the possums a couple times, and it's amazing. They're so cool. They're so cool.
It's so cute.
They're very cool.
And they're great for the ecosystem. So
Yeah.
They are.
They're so cute.
Well, they eat ticks, and they're like immune to rabies almost. They're really cool animals.
They're good. They're good little
them.
creatures.
I like watching them from afar.
Same, Raja.
All right, that's the end of round one. So it's time for a message from our sponsor. We don't have any yet, so I'm just going to give free promotion to something I like. Today is Canva. I love it so much. As a designer, I'm very much married to the Adobe suite, but I still use that for original designs, but Canva makes everything so easy and anyone can use it. It's great for sharing designs with teams. If you don't know anything about it, go look them up. They're fantastic. Now let's start round 2.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is Sign of the Times by Vision Video. It was
Yeah.
released today while we're recording.
Today.
On Modern Horror on Vision Video 2024. Dusty, tell us about this song.
Yeah, so Sign of the Times is one of the songs on our brand new record that's out today called Modern Horror. And this is my shameless plug moment of this podcast. But yeah, Sign of the Times is like actually one of my favorite songs on this record because I wanted to write a song that captured this sort of like frenetic, nervous energy that I think I feel all the time lately and that a lot of people feel. It's like everything still kind of works, but there's this like weird grittiness that feels like the song or our world is all about to completely fall apart. So there's something like kind of slightly unsettling about the melody. It's a little dark, but it's still energetic. But you know, the whole song lyrically it's pretty literal. You know, a couple of my favorite lyrical lines from the whole record are on this song. One of which is, you know, how could we feel good for anything again? It's just the sign of the times. You know, that's sort of the pre-chorus into the chorus. And I think that that's like a very common sentiment where people are just like, well, this is just the way things are. And I think that that's kind of a cop-out. You know, it's like we're just sort of accepting things at face value and accepting things to be unresolvable or irredeemable. And that's just really not acceptable to me. And then the second verse is really going into this like, I wanted to build this like rhythm with the vocals where it's all about like this kind of drumbeat of war that we're seeing again. It's going on right now and it transcends a lot of political allegiance. It's sort of the American syndrome. And it kind of gets faster into that chorus. And the whole point of that verse is like, that's what it feels like to be into that drumbeat of war and this convincing machine that's really well funded to mobilize and actualize people to go, oh, I should send myself or my kids to go fight, kill, and die for what, you know? And all the while, you know, there's really not all that much worth fighting and dying for in this country anymore. We've lost a lot of the things that were worth, you know, defending, and we're losing them even further, and we're watching it disappear before our very eyes. But like, you know, in keeping with the whole theme of modern horror, like one of my favorite lines in the whole record is at the assembly line, we sign our names on bombs so the burning children know that we truly love them. Because I saw this image of these politicians signing ordinance that was going to Israel, and it just disgusted me to my core. Because war should never be celebrated in any facilitation.
Yeah.
That was a killer line.
Yeah.
All right, this next song is Wake Up Everybody by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. It was released on Wake Up Everybody on Sony Music Entertainment in 1974. Raja, tell us about this one.
Yes, this came out during my birthday month in the 70s. I wasn't born yet, but the sentiment remains the same. Thinking about like age groups, kind of moving into the teenage, older adult or young adult. And I learned about bed rotting on TikTok and bed marinating. And so there are different ways that people who are dealing with anxiety and agoraphobia, depression, and they're kind of just like in bed because that's the only thing they have the energy to do because they're at war in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about how a lot of people are in a state of bed rot, but not necessarily in bed, whether it's like fear to speak up or speak out, and just thinking about how we are still in a place where it will take us stepping outside of what we're personally going through to see that collectively we can help each other. And so I think this song just is a good reminder that we can work together to make it better, for everybody. And it takes us, like, yes, continue to deal with what you're working through interpersonally, but also like step out and look next to you. What's your neighbor doing? What's your friend group doing? What are your neighbors
Mm-hmm.
doing? What's your community doing? And then keep building out from, those local communities and places. And we're talking about like voting, like don't just vote for president, vote down the ballot, look at those positions because
Mm-hmm.
the local elections matter just as much as who's going to be deciding what's going on in the schools, the streets, and then like what you can further do and express yourself just on a day to day. So yes, work on yourself, but also work together so that it can be better for everybody. And that's going to take us just waking up. So
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And that note on local elections too, like talking about how history is taught in schools, like that's impacted by all of the people in the school system.
exactly.
So it's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's vital and integral that people have to start realizing that like your local community affects your life way more than the big picture stuff most of the time.
Hmm.
And
Right.
I think mutual aid and just helping your neighbors is going to become more and more important as things like resources become slimmer. We're
Mm-hmm.
looking at even just 10 years down the line, water becoming pretty scarce in certain areas of this country, let alone the world at large, or
Yeah.
electricity or food even. I mean, it's already
Hmm.
scarce
Mm-hmm.
in places.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It's like just having the wherewithal to take care of yourself, because you got to take care of yourself before you can help anybody,
Hmm.
but also reserving energy to check in on people and do what you can, even if it's just a small thing. I think is a
Mm-hmm.
really important. I always love that kind of that saying. If we gave 5% more concern to the world, it would be unrecognizable. And I think that's
Mm.
it starts with that local sensibility for sure.
Yeah, that's real. And my mom always says, like, just because she always is like, well, I want our family to get together as a group and not only when there's a funeral.
Right.
Hmm.
Like, so looking at, for example, Western North Carolina, the hurricane
Hmm.
devastated Western North Carolina. And we're all thankfully like supporting Western North Carolina. But to Roger's point, how are we checking in on people when there's not like an act of God, as you might say, like affecting
Yep.
them?
Right.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of how we've structured our government as well has kind of pulled that kind of networking apart because, like traditionally, as like nomadic tribes, like we were the people who helped people in our local community.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was what all the resources came from. And in
Mm.
theory, the government should replace that system on some levels. Like that's why we have welfare and all these other
Hmm.
things. But then
Mm-hmm.
we keep, I don't know, we've kind of like separated so far from that that we don't really see the need to support each other as much as we used to, I think. And the more we
Mm-hmm.
cut back those government resources, the more they're needed that much more.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It feels like we're kind of in this self devolving system.
Yeah. Mm.
And I like that towards the end of the song, he's just like yelling, like, "Are
Yeah.
you listening?"
You're right.
Yes, everybody.
That's the mark of a good song when you start yelling at the end and like everybody knows the ad lib yells too.
Yes.
He does this for another minute and a half too. It's a nice long breakdown.
I did not look at that when I was away.
Yeah, this is 7.5 minutes, Raja.
You know those older songs, they got
Yeah.
something to say.
Oh, they got a jam. They got
You gotta
you know,
feel
they
it.
had
Okay.
the, yeah, they
You
got
you
into
gotta
it.
play it till it's out.
All right, we'll go ahead and skip the last minute or so. Sorry. This next song, my computer cooperates, is My House by Beyonce. It was released as a single on Parkwood Entertainment and Columbia Records in 2023. Tivy, tell us about this one.
Oh my God. Okay, so first of all, I love Beyonce. Like, unapologetic. A couple things I like about this song when I think about the state of things. One, I felt like Renaissance was a moment. And it's a moment that I want to continue for a variety of reasons. Just the creativity on stage, the blackness on stage, the queerness on stage. There were so many points of intersectionality when it came to Renaissance. And then the fact that she then made a documentary to accompany the world tour, and this song played at the end of the documentary. So this song and that whole moment is just a reminder that we're not a monolith. Women aren't a monolith. Black people aren't a monolith. Like, no group of people is a monolith, y'all. Like, even this song, like, this first part of this song is very different than the later part of the song. Like, this is very, like, Texas rap. Like, she is going hard. And then her vocals are going to come in and she starts singing. Then you get the softness, right? And so then later in the song, what I really love about it is she's saying, get the fuck up out, like, don't give a fuck about my house, then get the fuck up out my house. Like, that makes me think about our nation and America. Like, if you don't give a fuck about our house, you don't give a fuck about our White House, get the fuck up out the house. Unapologetic, like, the boundaries, I think, are something we should embody right now in this current landscape.
I love
Plus,
that.
this is a good song to dance to.
Yeah.
I love when Beyonce gets that, like, you know, she's talented at everything, but when she gets, like, you know, worked up about things, I love that side of her too.
Me too.
It makes me think about when you have to remind somebody to put a coaster down. Like, are you listening? Like, take care of my stuff. Take care of my things
Right.
too. Like,
Yeah.
I've invited you into my home.
I
The
see
least
how
you can do.
Roger escalates. You better put a coaster down. Let's heal the world one beautiful action at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Beyonce has always really embodied like this incredible commanding power to me, you know. Like, I remember when Lemonade came out and I was just like, I mean, I was like shooketh to my core, you know. I mean, and then the, you know, the accompanying, you know, videos and that whole like film essentially that was produced was just so unbelievably good. But I think it's I like people and musicians like Beyonce because they really put the feet to the fire of people that are afraid of, you know, strong women, or especially strong black women, like here down in the South. I mean, it's such an interesting thing where I have no reference for what that experience is like, but like what I was saying earlier, that's the value of music. I can listen to Beyonce sing about these things, and I can understand it through her ferociousness and through her power and her beauty and strength. I can understand that experience just a little tiny bit, and that's powerful, and that's really cool when somebody can do it in such a way that just grabs you immediately. And I think she does that so well.
Yeah. And she ends with "Let love heal us all."
It's beautiful. This song is Screwed by Janelle Monáe featuring Zoe Kravitz. It was released on Dirty Computer on Atlantic Recording in 2018. I feel like she's a similar personality in a lot of ways. Can't go wrong with Janelle Monáe.
Yeah.
So this song, I feel like it's a great encapsulation of the mood. I feel a lot of times, I think, like, it's upbeat and it's, it has a lot of positive elements to it, but it's talking about, just the world being fucked up and, let's get screwed. One of the lines is, "You fuck the world up now, we'll fuck it all back down." So it's kind of like embracing the inevitability of it, but saying, we'll recover, which is a nice thing to feel. And also, toward the end of the song, she mentions hoteps, like, "I'm tired of hoteps telling me how to feel," which I had to look up. It wasn't a group I was familiar with, but it's
I am.
I thought you might be. It's like the Black version of, like, the religious conservatives. So Afrocentrist subculture focused on ancient Egypt and Black pride, but they're very anti-LGBTQ, against interracial marriage, anti-feminist. Sometimes they're called the Ankh right. So, like, it's interesting to me that, it's interesting that there are so many, like, different, with all the subcultures we have, there are all these, like, kind of motions right now that are very regressive, which is concerning. But also, if you look into, like, there are a lot of theories that kind of are along the same line, but the centennial pendulum theory, which is basically like there's a 100-year cycle, and this, we go through these cycles of conflict to harmony, crisis to awakening. So in a way that is kind of reassuring, like, we can kind of predict this and we'll, go back to a better period.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I really believe that, I have a degree in religious history, and I studied sociology for a long time before I went and changed and got that degree. But, looking at history, when you look at social change and social problems through the lens of, like, historical perspective or sociological perspective, like, there is always a time where progressive, better modalities of thought start to take place, and we're seeing a lot of that really, really wonderfully manifest. The queer community is becoming way more accepted in the mainstream. Where, like, as a bisexual man, I don't have nearly as much fear as I did now that I'm out and publicly out as a bisexual man than I did years ago when I was still in the closet with my sexuality. But you look at it and you see all this turmoil because it is pushing against those old modalities, and there always will be conflict. But one of my professors in college, it was an ancient civilization professor, he said, anytime that people try to go back to the way things were, it never works. It never works. And every time I hear "Make America Great Again," I think, I just think back to that professor, and I think, well, when was it great? Was it when we owned human beings, or when women couldn't vote, or when we were colonializing the entire world through military dominance and still are? Like, when was it exactly great? But it's that you can see these processes of thought where they're trying to go back, and we have to go forward. So yeah, like I like this song a lot because it speaks to that, and it's really cool. And I also think that Janelle Monáe is like it's like she's like the modern version of Prince, and that might be heresy to some people, but I believe it.
You can hear
I'm with it.
in the song.
Yes.
The
I see
guitar.
the
That
I
one
see the
song in
notes in
particular
print.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's dope.
Here's that line. Yeah. All right, that is round two. We're going to take a moment to do a note on production. Discourse is produced in partnership with Hey Awesome Girl, a full-service marketing and creative studio on a mission to help female entrepreneurs build and grow companies that empower their lives. Become a part of their awesome community by visiting heyawesomegirl.com/grow. And Tivy is our founder and boss, so yay, Tivy.
Yay!
All right, let's get into round three. This is Dolly's Picture by the Chameleons. It was released on Dolly's Picture on Imaginary Records in 1993. Dusty, tell us about this one.
So this song is kind of a rarity or a B-side of some of their earlier works by the Chameleons. It was really, really kind of like one of those songs that if you knew the Chameleons, you might not have heard this song. It's a song all about sort of British soldiers going to colonial wars and fighting and dying for effectively that larger picture, but nothing that they actually really understand or that affects their lives. And Mark Burgess, the lead singer and bass player of the band, he's very pointedly political in a lot of his music, very critical of government actions, colonial sphere and influence from the United Kingdom. They're from the Manchester in the UK, and I think that, him growing up probably, in the 60s and 70s, they saw a lot of those last vestiges of the British Empire, going to things like the Falklands conflict in Argentina, and just seeing the effects of war on people. Also the last vestiges of with the Troubles in Ireland. And I can only imagine what that's like being a kid, seeing that kind of stuff, but also being told, oh, the glory of the British Empire is everything, and I think this song just speaks to the truth of war for me. And being a veteran, this is a song that really resonated with me after I came home from Afghanistan. But he, so the whole concept of Dali's picture, so Salvador Dali and Bernal made this film called Un Chien Andalou, which means a little dog, and it was basically this collection of abstract images that they kind of pieced together. And there's no narrative to this film. It's kind of a silent film essentially that they made in the 30s. And Dali and Bernal were talking about it in an interview because nobody really was like understanding. It's so avant-garde and so bizarre. And they were basically saying, well, it's all this kind of violent imagery sometimes, shockingly so. And they were saying it's violence for the sake of violence and for nothing else. And I think what Mark Burgess was trying to say with that, bringing that like into the lyrics and the title of the song, was saying a lot of war is just violence for the sake of violence. It's means to an end, but the ends are not what we see. It's often for political power or for financial gain for these corporations that make money off of war, or for whatever reason. But there's an ulterior motive behind it, but they have to sell these things to the public, and that really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that it pulls in that kind of. I love Dali as an artist, and he has a lot of dark paintings. Like there's one called Death that's like these people shaped in a skull, and I like that he pulls in all those levels. And that film by Dali and Buñuel it's quite strange.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very it's like very, it's kind of like very David Lynchian kind of film.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a great song. I really like how he says throughout the song, he says, "Cowards or killers are we," referring to soldiers. It's like you're either a coward if you deny it, or you're a killer
Yeah.
Wow.
if you join it. And
How unfair.
yeah, exactly.
All right, this next song is Ain't It Fun by Paramore. It was released on Paramore on Atlantic Recording in 2013. Raja, tell us about the song.
Yeah, thinking about age groups, this one is adult and older. Just my brain, the way I was trying to put together like different stages of life, and thinking about just like frontal lobe development, adulting, and then as a millennial experiencing all these different like historical events back to back. And since I can remember, since I was a kid, there's always something like in the history books happening. And even now with like potentially having my first female president, just so many historical things happening. And then at the same time, this is not what I was told adulthood would be. And then so I think about how are we supposed to figure this out if the adults who are older than me also don't have answers to my questions? So, huh? It's just like this song is like, yeah, welcome. Ain't it fun to be an adult now? No rules. You got your own money. Kinda.
Yeah.
If you don't have student loans.
I mean, let's be honest, being an adult is a scam. Like it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was gonna say, Raja, someone told you what adulthood would be like? Because I feel like no one told me anything.
Lots of people were telling me before my 30th birthday, I'll be 31 next month in November. Your knees are gonna hurt. Everything's gonna hurt. All of this stuff.
It's coming.
Fair.
And I was like,
Fair.
why are you telling me this? Like, what am I supposed to do now? Take extra vitamins? Like,
But I'll tell you though, getting older isn't all bad. I promise you this much. Now that I'm in my late 30s, one thing I do enjoy about getting older is you really stop giving a shit about dumb stuff. Like all the things that I cared about even just 10 years ago when I was 28 are like monumentally different. And I look back and I laugh at myself in so many ways. So there's a lot of really good stuff, but yeah, your knees are going to just get progressively worse. So I hate to tell you about all that.
Well,
and like just what you were saying about just growing up and then not giving a fuck. I have like decided that I'm not going to, instead of waiting for it to kick in, because I haven't felt that yet. Like I haven't had that kick in, so I'm just deciding not to care. And that could be part of it, but yeah, I'm making that choice now instead of like waiting for it to hit me. So every day practicing no F to get out of those.
Yeah, your fucks should be reserved for the people worth giving them to, and for very little else.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier today how I wish, as a like teenager and young adult, I had just embraced being weird and, you know, making other people uncomfortable. Like it took me a long time to get to that place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things that I see a lot of feedback from our audience with Vision Video. You know, is I see a lot of younger people, young adults, or later teenage people that are saying like things like, you know, I really appreciate, you know, seeing how confident you are, whether you're on a live stream or at a show or whatever you're doing. It makes me feel more confident to wear makeup or be weird or do whatever I want to do, as long as I'm not hurting anybody. And I'm like, that's exactly it. You know, it's like the older you get, you know, the more attuned to that I think you're able to get. But it also, you know, it takes courage no matter what age it takes. Because, I mean, you know, every time I step out the door in a full face of makeup and all gothed up, like, I mean, I live in the South, even in Athens. It's not I mean, it's progressive here, but it's not the most, you know, like people still have things to say, and, you know, and you got to have thick skin, but the less you care about it, you know, the less you give them that energy. And that's a really good thing.
That's so true.
Very true. This next song is My Power by Tierra Whack, Beyonce, Moonchild, Stanley. There are a few other artists in there. It was released on The Lion King, The Gift on Parkwood Entertainment and Columbia Records in 2020. Tivi, tell us about this song.
Oh my God. So I had to put on my like big headphones for this song because it's such a bop. Um, so let's take it all the way back. Like this is like you said on the Lion King soundtrack. This is Beyonce's Lion King the Gift album. The Lion King, when we think about the state of things, Lion King is about balance and harmony with the natural world. It's about transformation. It's about accepting responsibility, embracing one's true identity. I think these are all themes that we can relate, just like we related to Lion King back in the day, these things still hold true to today. And what I love particularly about this song, it's almost all female artists. And it is really it's almost like in the best way, Dusty, like a war cry for women.
Absolutely.
And it's like a celebration of that power. And some people would say it's like a call to Black men to meet the energy of Black women and their divesting of the white supremacist patriarchy. So we're just gonna let that sit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Also, what I love about it, there's so many different artists on this track from the diaspora. You know, there's Beyonce from Texas. There's another American artist. There's a Nigerian artist. There's South African artists, and just like bringing all those voices and those experiences together as a call, a powerful call to unity and power. Just relating it back to the Renaissance tour, this is the song where Blue Ivy came out and started dancing. So Blue Ivy, Beyonce's daughter, yes. And Beyonce is singing, it's what did you say? My bloodline on the front line, ready for war. And Blue Ivy comes out her bloodline.
Yeah.
And this also makes me think about Raja too, like that next generation. Beyonce is inviting literally the next generation into this call of power and unity.
Yeah, that's like such a super important thing. Like, I think it's so incredibly powerful and important to be for musicians to activate younger people, to like remind them, hey, you're coming into this world and nothing's perfect, but you're going to be the ones that really make change, because it has to start. These things are so big that they don't get resolved in one generation. It has to be passed down, and that fight against these oppressive systems has to be generational. And that's unfortunate for all of us in the moment, but I think it's more beautiful in a way, because that's like our legacy, is that we do the work to undo the things that harmed us in the past, and we try to make it incrementally better moving down the line of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it also makes me think of the Dora Milaje from Black Panther.
Yes.
And just like this strong feminism, strong womanism, really just, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and women are allowed to be strong. I think Dusty was talking about it earlier, like people being afraid of women in power. Like,
yep.
Baby, we've been birthing babies and holding down families and doing all this stuff for millennia. Of course we're strong. Okay, Olivia has joined the chat. Okay.
Oh, Olivia. That, for people without video, that is Tivi's dog. She's adorable. All right, this is our next song. It is It's Okay to Punch Nazis by Cheap Perfume. It was released on Burn It Down on Cheap Perfume in 2019. So, I had to go with something punk. It just, especially in in the political lens, I feel like you can't not have punk. So this group is from Denver, Colorado, and it basically is about, what's been happening in the U.S. these last few years. Some of the lines are, "A bully rose to take control, and now they're yelling off with their heads." You know, very January 6th.
Yeah.
And the chorus line is, "We've had to say a lot of stuff we thought was fucking obvious, like, yes, it's okay to punch Nazis," which is just a great anthem to sing to. So
yeah, it's kind of shocking because you know, being somebody that exists a lot of the time in sort of the goth subcultural world, which is very adjacent to punk rock. It came, you know, goth came from punk, effectively. And, you know, most people think of these as very hyper progressive, leftist, queer friendly and queer safe, BIPOC safe places. And they, by large, a massive majority are. But what I always tell people is when you allow one Nazi to have any amount of space in one of those places that are safe places for everybody else, that place is no longer safe, and that event has become a Nazi event. So, you know, it's like you have to regulate and make sure that people that are holding on to these ideologies are not allowed to have that like infectious sense of roots forming, you know. And that's why, like, you know, I'm so I don't like aggressively go after people that are like Trump supporters. Like, I understand it to some extent. I understand people wanting the outsider, or the perceived outsider at least, you know, the non-politician or whatever. But they're, you know, they're not seeing the fact that this guy is endorsing and saying, well, there's good people on both sides. It's like, nah, these guys are literal fucking Nazis. Like, these are literal KKK members that you're saying are good people. They're not. They are absolutely not. And we've literally fought wars and been through really trying times, and people have died in massive numbers to gain freedom and safety against these people and away from these people. So yeah, it's an awesome song, because I think that it's such a like stupid thing that we have to say something like, yeah, it's such a simple concept,
right,
but we have to continue to say it because apparently it hasn't taken root. And that's a little upsetting, but it's a good thing, because it gives the piss and vinegar to fight against the system.
that's true. All right, well, that is our playlist. Dusty, before we leave, do you have any Goth Dad jokes for us?
Here's a really bad one. This is like, okay, so all right, so who does a goth call when they lock themselves out of their home? They call a Robert Locksmith, like Robert Smith from The Cure.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
That's not a great one, but
Yeah, I'm blanking right now on any other ones, but they're all bad. So I mean, that's like
Different
about
types
as
of
good
bad.
as they get.
Yeah.
Varying levels. It's like the 7 layers of hell, you know.
I feel like people missed the
right.
cat burglar joke earlier, which would have been a perfect
Yeah.
one.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
We'll save it for
Yeah,
next
that would
time.
have.
There you go.
All right, well, you get to win the show anyway. Thank you for joining us. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so a good hub of everything that I do is just our website, which is just simply visionvideoband.com. From that, you can find links to all of our social media. I'm most active on TikTok and Instagram. But from there, you can also find our show and tour dates and links to tickets if you want to come see us live. We're amazing live. I don't do a lot of great things in my life, but I put on a good show, and my band, everybody in the band is amazing. So come see us live. We've also got merch on that website. That's just like probably the easiest way for people to find. And then, of course, we're on every streaming platform. So if you want to listen to Modern Horror, which came out today on October 22nd, you can stream that literally anywhere. So I'm super stoked. It's getting really good reception, and
Good.
and I'm really proud of it. We worked really hard on it. I mean, every musician always works really hard on everything that we put out, but sometimes you're succinctly aware of like how special something is, and this one feels really, really solid and special. So go check it out. I think you'll like it. And if you don't, I'm
Awesome.
sorry.
If you don't, you're a loser.
No, no. You just don't have good taste. I don't know.
Right. Okay. So we will be back with another episode every week. So be sure to hit subscribe. You can follow us everywhere at Discourse Podcast. That's Discourse with 2 C's. And of course, find the playlist on Spotify and Tidal. You've been a wonderful audience. Good night.
Take care. Stay strange. Bye.